Hi, this is Dallas from Dallas. One decision, one vaccine, a life forever changed. Today I'm sitting down with a former kindergarten teacher who experienced a severe, life-altering complication after receiving the COVID vaccine. A complication that ended her career, but not her courage. Today's conversation is about strength, resilience, and faith, and the choosing of hope even when life changes overnight. Jennie, I'm so honored to have you. Welcome to the show. Open hearts, endless motivation. This is Dallas Podcast.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
Today's conversation is going to be about the vaccine and the implications and the things that you've gone through.
Right.
But before we get into that, I really think, let's talk about you before the vaccine. There's a before and an after, right?
There is.
And so let's talk about you before the vaccine.
So before, obviously, I was a kindergarten teacher. I loved my job. I love working with kids, still love working with kids. I also, was very involved with, the boys' sports, and I've done triathlons. I was a triathlete, did several triathlons, and hit workouts, and was in really good shape, probably the best shape after having kids. I think you go through that process and you want to find yourself again.
Yes.
So I threw everything into also being a mom, but also doing triathlons. Before all of that, I was very healthy eater. Liked, a mambo taxi every once in a while, but there's definitely a before and after.
Yeah.
To say that I don't miss that life, I do.
Yes.
But I'm here today, and that's the most important things.
I remember you were very fit. I remember
Yes.
that about you.
Yeah.
So not that you're not now, but I
Right.
remember that about
Yes.
you. So you were obviously, making sure that you were taking care of yourself, because for you to be able to give to others, and your kids and the kids that you're taking care of at school, you need to take care of you.
Yes.
And as moms, we sometimes forget about that.
Right.
And I know that I did that for a long season in my life. And so I think that, you finding yourself, I think honestly was probably one of the reasons you are sitting where you are today, is that you had prepared your body, even though you weren't preparing your body for what was going to happen, but
Right.
you were preparing your body
Yes.
for what was going to happen.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can look probably back and say, wow, because of the conditioning, because I was in great shape, even though I went through this, tragic experience, maybe that was a big part of how you...
It was definitely a blessing. I look back on that now, and I probably, if I hadn't been as healthy and in shape as I was, the outcome could have been different. So I am thankful for that.
So, okay, let's take me to that day. First of all, obviously, you have 2 kids and a husband. What was their take on you getting a vaccine, and did they get the vaccine?
My husband and I were very against it for our children from the very beginning, just because it was something new that rolled out. Obviously, there had not been enough studies done on it, which we were well aware of. There had been trial runs with it. But I think we both were on the same page for that. We had always gotten vaccines before. Christian, my oldest, does have autoimmune disorder. So, for him, it was important to get certain vaccines. So he had gotten the flu vaccine. I had gotten the flu vaccine. I've gotten, being around kids, I had always gotten those, no problem. But for this one, it just felt different. And so Josh and I both were like, absolutely not for the kids, just because we don't know enough about it. My husband did not get it as well. For me, in the beginning, it was one of those things, it's just because we didn't know enough about it, I was on the fence. So I would say it was exactly a week before I got the vaccine, I went and got the antibody test to this. So there's a spike protein test that you can get, and it tells whether or not you either have the vaccine or you've had COVID. And in my head, my whole thought process was like, okay, if I've been exposed to COVID and I've had it, I'm not going to get the vaccine. And the reason for that is that with Frisco ISD, it was not mandated, but it was very strongly encouraged, to where we did have to sign something saying that we did get the vaccine, which, you know, at the time looking back, it did cause like some red flags, because it's not like you have to do that with the flu vaccine.
No.
That's something that was very new. I was like, okay, so we have to sign our name stating that we did get, you know, a vaccine. So it was all just, it felt different. But with Frisco ISD, with the district, you know, I teach kindergarten, they're very germy, you know, they they're I mean, they are, they do all the things. And so coming off of teaching virtually, especially kindergartners, it wasn't something that I wanted to do again. And not because I didn't love my job or didn't love the kids, but it was just, you know, teaching letters and sounds with a mask on. It just, all of those things, it just, it didn't make sense to me. So my question, you know, for the district was, if we were to not get the vaccine, what did that mean for us?
Yeah.
And so that was, every time we came in contact with a student that had tested positive for COVID, we would have to quarantine for 7 to 10 days. So as teachers,
how many kids were in your class?
23.
Okay.
You know, so basically it could be the whole school year.
Yeah,
you
right.
know? So, but they, my question is, you know, we only get, you know, like 10 days of paid absences. So what happens after we go through those 10 days? And it was, you would be docked for every day after that. Well, that just logically, that didn't make sense to me.
Right.
That just, I mean, I could be working for free all year. Yeah.
Right.
Because I would be coming in contact with these students.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, you know, so I did make the decision. I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense for me to quarantine the entire year. And so what that also meant too, when you were quarantined, when you came in contact with a student, you would also be virtually teaching from home. So basically how that looked is the sub would plug, you know, actually have me on the screen, and I would be teaching while there was a sub in the classroom. So it just,
I mean, that's crazy. That's insane. I mean, first of all, it's like again, you've wearing the mask, and you know, you were talking about sounds in kindergarten. You know, I mean, kids need to hear the sounds. They need to see your mouth moving,
right?
Like that, all of that, right? And that's an integral part of their learning development.
Right.
Huge,
yes,
right?
Yeah, right.
And so for you to be put in that situation where now you're like, okay, if I am exposed to COVID by a child,
right,
which they're petri dishes, so they're definitely, I mean, if one kid gets it, the chances of another kid getting it in the same class, high.
Right.
And so now you're basically staying at home and you're doing everything that you didn't want to do because of the year before.
Right.
And now you're not getting paid either.
Right.
And so I'm
still working.
And you're still working.
Yes.
And it's so it's a lose, 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 lose. Like where's the winning here?
Right. And for me, it didn't make sense. I could not justify it. It was like, okay. And I knew, so the thing is I knew that if I had COVID, that, you know, I wouldn't get, like, once you had the antibody, especially in the beginning, you weren't going to get it, you know, again for a while.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll be good. But I did. I mean, I made the decision. I was like, I'll, you know, if I have the, you know, spike protein in my body, I won't get it. Unfortunately, I did not, which, you know, obviously caused definitely a shift and a change of events in my life. But I did, on April 2nd, I got the first vaccine. I did get Pfizer. So we did, you know, again, it felt different. Even when I went to Scottish Rite, you had to sign something, obviously stating if something were to happen, or, you know.
And that's unheard of, right? Like,
right.
I mean, have you ever signed anything like that before?
No. Flu
Okay.
vaccine, I mean.
Nothing.
I mean, flu vaccine, we got them at school.
Yeah.
I'm like, we were done, you know. So again, it felt different. I have since learned to always go with my intuition, because it is, you know, it's probably right.
I know, you know, you're a believer, but I call that the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
that intuition, that inside voice that we hear.
Right. And it to the point to where the first vaccine, I actually drove to the parking lot, and I got there and I drove away, and then I went back. I feel like God was probably telling me this is not a good idea. But I did not listen.
But you know what? Like, here you are, and there is a big purpose, and we're going to continue to share this, but there's a big purpose. I mean, he uses even things that one of my favorite verses of all time is, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And even when we don't understand why we choose certain things, we'll make lots of turns that we're making the wrong turn, but he still will direct our path, and he'll still help us through those times. And I know he has, obviously, because you're living proof, but there was purpose even in the choice that you made.
Right.
So, you're living proof right now.
And I know, obviously he's guided me through all of this because I wouldn't be here today. But it was, drove away, went back, it was April 2nd. Again, did not have the spike protein, so made that decision to go ahead and get the first vaccine. After the first vaccine, I didn't have a reaction right after. A couple weeks went by, and I didn't know at the time that they were related because, again, who would have thought that, again, I've gotten flu vaccines, I've gotten other vaccines, never had a reaction. Didn't even think, honestly, that it was possible. I was, and so many, I knew other people that had gotten the vaccine. They did fine with it. No reaction.
And maybe you were thinking, I don't know, for me, I would have probably thought I would have had the reaction immediately.
Oh, right. Exactly.
And so, because that's what other vaccines are. Right. Like you go take your kid to get a vaccine and they're like, okay, the next 24 or 48 hours, watch your kid.
Right.
Make sure there's no
Tylenol.
Yeah. So you're like, okay, this is 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, and I'm just now having something. So, like, why would you think it was from the vaccine?
Right. And that was my exact thought process. And it was a couple weeks went by. I had some vision issues. I had some floaters in my eyes, some blurriness. And I have my girlfriend who is my eye doctor. I texted her. I was like, hey, I'm having some issues with my eyes. There's some blurriness going on, and at the time it was April, like it is now. It's the pollen count, allergies. Right. And so she was like, you can just get some drops. And so, didn't think anything of it. And then, a couple days later I had, our women's little visit, and
yes, of course, Aunt Flo is what we used to call it.
Yes, but this one was different. There was definitely heavy bleeding, like I've never bled before. I did have to call my OB, and she was like, "If this continues, you need to go to the ER." But again, didn't put the two together.
So what did you attribute that to? Or were you like, okay, this is weird?
Honestly, being the age that we are, I was like, okay,
menopause?
Yeah. I was like, really? Because at the time, I was 40 years old. I was like, okay, maybe I'll maybe
I'm early, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm early, and I'm just having some hormonal shift changes, and, but never ever, put two and two together. And if I had, obviously would never have even gotten the second one.
Right.
Right. So that was April 2nd. And then May 2nd, I went to get the second vaccine. And that one, it was on a Sunday. So I went that Sunday to get, and they spaced them apart. I believe it was supposed to be 30 days, which mine was, because I was April 2nd, May 2nd. Immediately after this one, there was a little bit of, my body did feel different. Honestly, in my head, I thought it was anxiety because I still wasn't on board with it. Yeah. And I just, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, like I'm probably, cause it felt similar to, like, I guess what maybe a panic attack would feel like, like my heart, I could feel my heart rate rise a little. And
this is immediately
after.
Wow, okay.
Right. And they made you sit, and so I'm sitting in this chair and I'm like, okay, like this is probably in my head. This isn't the vaccine, and, but it subsided and went about my day, and, it was normal. And then that entire week, I would say, A day or two later, I noticed my heart rate. I could feel my heart, just beating. And I was like, okay, that's really weird. And being an athlete, my heart rate had always been super low. We're talking 40s, 50s. Highest it ever got in Orange Theory when I was doing Orange Theory workouts was 120. Okay. So, I mean, definitely this was different.
Yes.
And it was even causing like shortness of breath, to where even my friend who was the nurse at Pink, she had said, she was like, Jennie, every time I talk to you, you're just out of breath. And I was like, I swear, I was like, I got the vaccine on Sunday. Ever since the vaccine, I said, I've been short of breath. I was like, my heart rate's all over the place. I'd be sitting at teacher table, like teaching a lesson, and I'd look down at my watch and my heart rate was like at 98. And I was like, okay, like what is happening? So she urged me to put in a call to my GP, and I did. And he was like, that's normal. We're seeing this after the vaccine. It'll subside. Obviously that was not normal, but
yes.
Again, they didn't know at the time. Obviously enough.
We're seeing this. Okay. That would have been like, okay, you're seeing this. Like we're seeing some major changes in people's health.
Right.
Like heart rate, big problem. Bleeding, big problem. Right. Blurred vision, big problem. We're seeing these things. And again, no one was hey, let's not talk about it, and let's not connect the dots.
Right. Yeah, no. And he did. He just kind of brushed it off, and he was like, it'll subside, and it'll go away. And so that was that entire week. And then Friday of that week, I was out school with my kids. We were at recess, and thankfully I had my phone on me and I had my watch. But I felt like my heart, it was starting to speed up. And I was like, what is going on? I'm outside, I'm watching my kids play. And my heart rate went from 70 to 160. Everything went white. Thankfully, I was able to call my co-teacher, called her, and I said, I need you to come get my kids. I said, I can't see anything. Everything's white. I said, they barely got me to the nurse's office. My principal at the time, who was amazing, rushed me to the ER. By the time I got to the ER, I couldn't use my hands. My legs, my entire body felt like I had been given pretty much an epidural. So I had no control of my fingers. Like I couldn't even sign in.
Oh my gosh.
So I get back to the back. There was a doctor there. He had no explanation. He didn't act that surprised that I was having this reaction from the vaccine. But it was, all my vitals were normal. Everything was fine.
He didn't act surprised.
He didn't act that surprised, no.
Like he'd seen it before.
Right. So, and he basically said, he was like, we just don't know enough about this. And, I'll never forget, because I remember him saying, my husband at the time obviously came to the ER as well, but he said, he was like, is something that will just go away. It's just your body reacting to the vaccine. And I think I held on to that for so long, because you want to believe, I mean, and not saying that, I mean, that he's not a great doctor, and there's not great doctors out there, because believe me, that's how I've gotten, I think, a lot to where I am now. But I think I held on to that, listening to this doctor say it'll go away.
Right.
And I believed him.
We were raised in a time where, doctors knew everything. And again, my dad's in the medical field. I've been around medicine my whole life. My mom worked for doctors. So again, not saying that doctors, I love doctors.
Right.
I mean, a doctor doesn't know everything.
Right.
Especially with the scenario that you're dealing with. Like these cases are anomalies. Like every case is different.
Right. Yes.
And here you are dealing with a very, very hard situation. You're feeling like your body's out of control.
Right.
And you're like, what is going on, and where are my answers? And they can't answer.
Right.
They're like, well, your body's just going to get over it.
Right. And I think my husband and I both, we both believe that. My husband believed it as well. And that was that on that Friday. So I did, obviously I left the ER with no answers. Nothing to just let it ride out.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I was told. And I was like, okay, like this is just a slight
Spill.
reaction. Yeah, right. It's just a small bump in the road,
Yeah.
And so, but that night, I had trouble breathing. I couldn't catch my breath. It felt like I was breathing through a straw.
Oh my gosh.
And then by the next morning, I couldn't even use my legs. So my husband we went back to the ER. We went to, Plano Presby, and he took me to the ER to where he had to carry me in. And
what was it like that moment when you're like, first of all, you're saying you can barely breathe, but then your legs literally go numb.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's basically trying to walk when you've been given an epidural. I mean,
you can't move.
Right.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I remember. I had an epidural with Finley, and my leg literally. My mom had just had surgery, and she was in the room, and my leg literally fell off of the table, and and she had surgery, so I'm trying to tell my brain to move it because I don't want her lifting my leg,
right?
Because it's dead,
right?
And she was like, I was like, please move, but I couldn't move it because it doesn't move,
right?
So yes, so you're literally sitting there, you can't move. Your husband's having to carry you, and you're in this position. So are you just scared out of your mind? What's going on?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think, after seeing the doctor on Friday, and he was like, it'll go away, and I just deep down, I knew that my life was about to be forever changed overnight.
You felt it.
I felt it immediately.
Wow.
So, and we did, when we got to the ER, there was an amazing, and I'm again talking about God being, where you needed him to be at the right place at the right time. I do feel like that was the case with this doctor. He, behind closed doors, it was my husband, it was Josh, myself, and him in the room. And he said, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been seeing this, especially with women in your age group. And he said, this is not the first case. He was like, here's my phone number, and actually gave me his phone number. And he was like, I want you to text me. And he was like, I'm going to give you doctors because you're probably going to need to see a lot of them, that understand and probably get that this is not something mental. This is something, that has been caused by the vaccine. But I will deny that because this is something we have signed an oath saying that we will not speak about the COVID vaccine and what we are seeing if there are complications with it.
Okay, so that as a doctor, I mean, can you imagine being a doctor? First of all, you're taking an oath as a doctor,
right,
to protect and to help people. That's like the oath, right?
Right.
To save people, to help people,
right?
And now you're having to sign this oath.
Right.
Stating that even though the stuff you're seeing is 100% directly related to the vaccine, you cannot talk about it.
Right.
I mean, talk about inner turmoil for a doctor.
Right. And it is because they did. And they went to medical school for all of these years, and then they're being threatened to lose their license.
Everything.
And that's when I knew this was different.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make,
it was a weapon.
Sense. Right. It didn't make sense. And he did, he gave me the names of, because, it messed with my heart. I had pot-like symptoms, dysautonomia. I couldn't stand, just from sitting to standing, my heart rate, it would shoot up to 160. And that was just, from sitting to standing. So he was like, you're going to need a cardiologist, you're going to need immunologist, you're going to need pulmonologist. And so he did. He made sure and gave me a list, which I will be forever grateful for what he did for me.
He was an angel.
Yeah, he was. And it continued to check on me, and we would text, and, I would say, this doctor, doesn't believe it's from the vaccine. And, and he was like, this is the one I want you to see. I go to this one. So it was, and it was then that I realized, okay, like I've got a long road ahead of me, and my family is about to have a long road ahead of them. So,
So when you go into the doctor, this doctor is obviously an angel. Your legs are still numb. How did you get feeling back? Did it come back? Like, what does that look like?
So they were completely numb. So for the next probably 3 months, I was in and out of the hospital, seeing doctor after doctor, going to multiple ER visits because I couldn't breathe, because it was affecting my airways, and then obviously affecting my heart. The majority of doctors that I saw in the ER thought that this was anxiety. I cannot tell you how many tried to prescribe drugs for anxiety and depression. I'm not a depressed person.
No.
I've never been in my life. I don't have anxiety. I teach kindergarten, for goodness sakes.
Yes,
I mean, you can't really, it just doesn't go.
Right.
So, and I'm thankful that I never,
You wanted
got
answers.
on any meds.
You wanted answers.
Right.
I mean, you didn't want this quick fix which was in our society, that is the answer to most people, is drugs.
drugs.
And unfortunately, it's because if you watch TV at all, you see a million ads, right? And they're all about drugs. And like, if you got this, then take this. And if you got this, take this. And so it's a really like scary place that we live in, because we're getting so much information and so much advertisement coming at us, that we get influenced. And yet you stood your ground, and you were like, no, I want answers.
Right. And I did. I mean, it was, it got to the point where when doctors would say it was anxiety and depression, I mean, I did, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use my voice. And I'm like, this is not anxiety and depression. I was a healthy person. I got this vaccine and I've not been the same since. Like, something is not right. And I think the hard thing is, and it's still hard to this day, because I look healthy on the outside, people assume, oh, you're completely fine. And the thing is that all my blood work was coming back normal. I mean, everything was normal. And I felt anything but normal. I mean, and over those 3 months I saw, I had to see pulmonologist. I had to have an MRI of my brain, because then they, McKinney Family Medicine was a huge, they were a huge part in, telling people that obviously the vaccine is causing issues. They brought on to Peter McCullough, who a lot of people are familiar with him. He's a cardiologist, but he was also, a whistleblower in the beginning, and people didn't believe him that the vaccine was causing issues. It just, and it, I think, I had to see cardiologist, and thankfully, I did, I had to wear I've had to wear a heart monitor 3 times. I've had to have a sono of my heart twice. And it wasn't until, at this time, because it was so new, there had been a little bit of chatter in our community, in Frisco, that people were having reactions, but no one was really talking about it. And for me, I think I felt I did nothing wrong. I got a vaccine that was being pushed by the government. I thought I was doing something good and something, right for myself. And the fact that you're a teacher, and you were doing it for your students. I wanted to teach, and be in a classroom,
and because you're gifted in that. That's what God's gifted you with. So I mean, again, you were just following the fact that you had been home for a year and you know how important it is for kids to see and hear and all the things. I mean, it was out of your heart that you wanted to, be in class, and you wanted to be able to participate and grow those relationships in a very integral stage in a kid's life. And I mean,
and I did. And that, I mean, it was my whole purpose for doing that. And then I think, the talking of, oh, well, I heard this person had a reaction, this person reaction. And there was a dad that I met through a mutual friend. And my girlfriend was like, hey, I think you need to talk to this dad. He's having some of the same issues you are. He actually even traveled to Nashville, Tennessee for a doctor that was treating vaccine patients that had been injured by the vaccine. Not knowing, he gets there, he sees this doctor, and she said, well, you know that there's one right in there in Frisco where you live that is treating vaccine injured and long haulers. And he was like, I did not. And so, so thankful for him, I got the name of this doctor. And he honestly, I knew too, I was told when I made the appointment that I had to say that I was a long hauler and that it was not from the vaccine, just to make the appointment.
So long hauler, what does that mean?
So COVID long hauler. So long haulers and vaccine, with the COVID vaccine, there are a lot of similarities in the reactions. So some people like that are a long hauler, have breathing issues, have neuropathy, have the POTS, the dysautonomia. There's different, because it's the spike protein, right? I mean, it's damaging the body.
Yeah. It's rewriting
and so
it.
Basically with this vaccine, all you're doing is damaging your body with this mRNA.
Yeah. It's
vaccine.
rewriting your genetic code.
Right. Yes. So it was, there are a lot of similarities between those, but you couldn't say that when you made the appointment.
Especially back then.
Right.
Right.
So, so when I made the appointment, I had to say, they were like, and I had to say that I was a long hauler. And so once I got into his office and he closed the door, he was like, is this from the vaccine, or are you, is it from COVID? And I said, it's 100% from the vaccine. And it wasn't until I felt heard. It was from him. Everything was justified. Everything made sense. He really, I don't know where I would be, because he believed me. He didn't think it was anxiety. There was no depression. And actually he even, he was like, a couple of the immunologists wanted to even give me like gabapentin because I couldn't feel my hands and my legs. And he was like, I don't want you taking any prescription drugs. No. He said, it's just a Band-Aid. Yes. He was like, for you were an athlete before, you were healthy. He was like, this has damaged your entire nervous system. He was like, so I'm going to do everything I can to try to help you. And
oh my gosh.
I think it was a relief to just know, that like somebody understood it.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you can explain things to people till you're blue in the face, until someone actually understands and has seen, either for themselves or someone they care about.
Right.
It's like, it's maddening.
Well, and even like friends and family members,
they don't understand.
They didn't. It was just, they were like, there's no way that this vaccine caused that. And I'm like, I was completely normal, like before this. So it, I get it, but like when it's happening to you.
Oh yeah.
When you can't, it was, this part hopefully don't get emotional about, but I will never forget, Ryan, his teacher, calling me, after school and saying, she was like, Ryan was in the bathroom today crying because he thought his mom was going to die.
Oh,
so
goodness.
And my husband too. We had to do my will. We did everything because we didn't know that I was going to make it. And he and my children were terrified. Because they saw, this once vibrant mom that was, doing triathlons and running, to not being able to make it. I couldn't walk. It took me 3 months just to make it from like my bed to our couch. Because I couldn't use my legs because everything was so heavy. So it wasn't until, I saw him, and again, just an angel. And I've thanked him many, many times, probably for saving my life.
Yes.
So he did, so it was through his practice, and he was studying it. There was a group of like 10 of them that were studying what the vaccine and what COVID was doing to the body. And he suggested something called EECP therapy, which is typically used for patients that have gone into cardiac arrest or that, have had heart attacks. I had never heard of it. But at this point, I mean, I was willing to do
Anything.
whatever it took to get my body, it just moving again. Because I couldn't, I mean, again, I was pretty much housebound. I couldn't go, and that was the thing too with teaching. I couldn't finish out my last 2 weeks of school. I missed parties for my kids. I mean, I was missing games, everything, because I couldn't participate. I couldn't go. I mean, my heart rate was all over the place. My legs were heavy. I was diagnosed with small and large fibromyalgia. And it wasn't until then he was like, I would like, because he had suggested this therapy to long haulers, and he had seen success with that. He was like, you will be my first vaccine patient to try this. And he was like, hopefully, we can see some improvement with your heart, and all of that. And so, but basically what this was, it was, for 30 days, it was for 1 month, it was Monday through Friday, an hour a day. And I will never forget my first day of doing therapy. I get there and, my husband's with me, and, there's stairs. So there's not an elevator. Where I was at that point, I couldn't walk upstairs. So it probably took me about 20 minutes just to get up. It was just one staircase, up to the floor of where this therapy, and it's in Plano, where I was doing this therapy. And I will never forget just looking up at the stairs and thinking, like, can I do this? Yeah. Just,
and one step at a time you did.
Mm-hmm. And I did. And, that was the first day there. And, I go into a room, everybody is given, you're in almost like a hospital room. And there's a bed, and then you're pretty much, they're similar to, the compression that you can do at like Lifetime, I forgot what they're
sleeves,
called. Yeah, like the compression sleeves. It's similar to that, but on a whole different level. So basically you're strapped in, from your waist down. And basically what it does is it pumps blood up to the heart to make the heart work properly, and to get blood and oxygen through the body. But when I say probably one of the most intense things I've ever, I would go through childbirth hands over this any day, because it literally feels like someone's squeezing the ever-loving life out of your entire body. And you had to do that. It was for an hour. For 30 days. And I remember doing it the first time, and I was like, there's no way that I'm going to make it through this. And most people don't. Most people, I've had other, people that I've met that are vaccine injured as well, and they could make it through it but I was like, I will never forget, on the way to this therapy, and this song has stuck with me throughout all of this. It's Sia, but it's that song Unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And I'm unstoppable today. Yep. And I literally heard that song on the way, and I was like, that's it. I was like, I am going to do this, whether, it may kill me, but I'm like, I have nothing else to lose at this point.
Yep. I'm going to do it.
I did.
You made that choice. But see, here's the thing. Like, I look at this, like, here you are heading to this doctor's appointment. You don't even know what you're heading into, really. Mm-hmm. And you see the staircase, and you're like, can I make it up this staircase? That's your first thought. Can I make it up this staircase? And you take one step at a time. And now you're in your first appointment in this room, and you're feeling the pain. You're feeling this pain that's like compared to worse than childbirth, which all women that have experienced that know what that's like. Right. And you're like, I don't know that I can do this. But again, I love how God puts you in this position of seeing the staircase, and he says, just take it one step at a time, one day at a time. Right. But you had the confidence that you were going to do it. You made that choice you were going to do it. Right. And that is everything. Yeah. When you're dealing with something like you dealt with.
Right. And it was one of those things. I am not going to let this win. I'm like, I took all of that anger and just, all of the sadness, like seeing my kids the way that I took all of it. I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm going to do this. And, it's 30 days. I can do anything for 30 days. I can do it.
Yeah.
And by the end of the 30 days, because at the beginning they have you like walk a line and how fast you can walk lines and stuff. At the end of the 30 days, I could actually run down the hallway. And those stairs were no longer feet anymore. I could make it up the stairs. So I do truly believe that I think it saved my heart. It definitely improved, obviously, as far as my legs and the neuropathy and all of that. But to say it was easy would be an understatement.
Yes.
So, and it just
it was a pivotal moment for you. I mean, really, if you think about it, like here you are leading up to, you're not getting any of the answers. You're having doctors tell you that it's, anxiety driven and it's in your head and all these things. And you're depressed. They're trying to give you medication. Right. You finally find a doctor that is like, wait, I've seen a lot of these cases and you're not depressed, you're not, seeing things and you're not having anxiety. And in fact, I don't want you taking any medication. Mm-hmm. We're going to completely clear your body of this.
Of all of it.
Of all of it. And we're going to try something. And it is seeking that answer because it started with you not being able to breathe. And so, and then it became neuropathy, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right. And it was neuropathy. And then I had lost feeling in my face. So similar to like Bell's palsy. Like, I couldn't feel my face. Even like with my legs, like I remember sitting down, probably this is a month after the vaccine, and Christian was sitting on the couch with me. And I was like, I want you to pinch my leg as hard as you can. And he was like, no, I know. He was like, Mom, no. He's like, I don't want to do it. I was like, just do it. I just want to see. And I'll never forget, he pinched as hard as he could.
You didn't feel it.
I couldn't feel a thing. Could not feel a thing. And it was, I think, and it basically, after talking to this doctor, and going through all of this, he did basically the vaccine damaged my entire nervous system. Again, the small and large fiber neuropathy, the heart stuff. And then I started about a month after I developed something called mast cell activation syndrome, which have never heard of before in my life.
Can you say that again? Mast, so
MAST, cell activation syndrome. I had never heard of it before in my life.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
But it just so happened a month after the vaccine, I was eating a lime popsicle, and I've never had any kind of food allergies before in my life. I have been allergic to bees and wasp and, certain medications like amoxicillin, penicillin. Those drugs or whatever, but no allergies to food. But I was eating a lime popsicle and I started having trouble breathing and did not know what was happening, especially because I was, eating a food. Right. I was like, what is happening? And it was about a month after. And then I started having more reactions to different foods that it just didn't make sense. Exactly.
Like what you put in your body is going to actually maybe cause you to die.
Right.
Because you have a reaction to it.
And I had no idea. And it wasn't, and the doctor that I was seeing, he was like, you probably need to see an immunologist. Gave me, a couple of doctors, but then I started researching, some of my symptoms. And all of a sudden I was like, it was starting with like heart rate issues, neuropathy, trouble breathing, and it all it kept coming up, mast cell activation syndrome. And I was like, what is mast? I even remember telling my mom, I was like, this was maybe a month and a half after. I was like, I think I have something called mast cell activation syndrome. And of course, being my mom, and she's like researching it, and seeing, she was like, Jennie, there's no way. And I was like, I swear. And so I did my own research. I started researching it, found a doctor in Plano, again, another angel, as I like to call some of these doctors.
Yeah.
She had been seeing the same thing, after the vaccine. And they were actually treating, vaccine injured patients. Wow. And so I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome, which that one it's a different, because probably more than half of patients that have mast cell activation syndrome, they do it with something's called a tryptase. So with a tryptase, that's something that they do with your blood, and based on this scale, it tells whether or not you have mast cell. Well, the majority of cases, your tryptase is normal. It's only if you have mastocytosis, I believe, that one is in a whole different category, that usually that shows up. But with mine, I mean, again, labs were normal, but with the reactions, I was diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome. So, and then that led to calming with foods that also helped with the neuropathy, because I had to be on a low histamine diet. So basically what that meant is no nightshades, no alcohol, no
What's nightshades?
Like eggplant, tomatoes, things like that.
Okay.
So no nightshades. Most fruits and vegetables are off the table. I had to learn a lot. I've read a lot of books about mast cell activation syndrome now, but that also meant, I also have to take H1, H2 blockers. So like I take Zyrtec and Pepcid twice a day. I've also take something called ketotifen, which is a mast cell stabilizer that keeps everything at bay. Cause basically the way that mast cell works, it's like a bucket. So it's with your bucket. If you keep adding stuff onto your bucket, once it fills over, it can cause your body to go into a flare. And then once you're in a flare, you can start going anaphylactic more frequently, which is what happened about a year ago. I was going anaphylactic probably 2 to 3 times a week. And I was in the ER quite a bit. And
okay, so back up. Okay, so you're all excited because you've gone up these stairs, and your heart feel you can run, and now all of a sudden you're getting hit with something different.
Right.
Yeah. And now you can't eat a lime popsicle, and you realize that you have mast cell activation, and you are now like, okay, what food can I eat?
Right.
And how do I know? And what if did you just like, okay, I'm going to try this and see if this is...
I did. It was sticking to a low histamine diet, but the problem with mast cell is one day you can eat a food and be fine, and the next day you have the same food and you're not, and you have an allergic reaction. So it's kind of like Russian roulette, you know?
Oh my gosh.
It's and so it basically what happened is because it affected my nervous system, with that also came the mast cell activation syndrome. So basically my body's trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And anything that I put in it, it goes, nope, you're not safe. And then it causes
fight or flight.
my body.
It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it causes my body to have a reaction. And that's not only with foods, that's with, like I can't do candles in my home. I can't do like shampoos and conditioners. I had to find ones that were not scented. So like scents can scent me off. So, and my girlfriends know now, like if we're riding with Jennie, no one's wearing perfume,
Yeah.
So
I get that. We didn't do with Finley when she was born and she was having all those eye appointments and doctors. I never wore perfume because I was afraid. I didn't know.
Right.
So I get it. No, yeah. But yeah, don't wear perfume. I'm not wearing perfume today.
Yes,
so.
Yeah, thank you. But it did. I mean, I had to, and even, certain like product, like makeup products, whatever you're putting on your skin, that it can all trigger a mast cell event. And so I had to learn to.
And what do you do when that happens?
So I carry 4 EpiPens with me at all times, because I've had to use more than one, before for having a reaction. But you have it to medications too. So like I had flu back in December, most people can take Tylenol, Motrin, all that. I can't take any of that. So I have to, the holistic, my kids are looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm wearing an ice mask on my face to keep my fever down.
Yeah.
Because I can't take most antibiotics and supplements now. And I will say, so last year, I went through a huge flare and probably only weighed about 100 pounds because I was going anaphylactic, 2 to 3 times a week. And I was terrified to eat because I was having so many reactions to even my safe foods that were supposed to be okay that weren't. And so for 3 months, last year, I could only eat a chicken breast every day. That's the only thing that I could have, for about 3 months before my body finally settled. The mast cells finally calmed down enough to where I could start introducing foods again. All of that, it put me in a dark place. It really did. And I have, I'm like, my brother took his own life at 20. So, this is where I think when, we say that God's a part of it, when he took his life, I never understood why. I was upset. I was angry, all of the things. And I never understood, I guess, how, I'm sorry, how people can, do that and leave behind your family. And I'm like, I feel like it was God's way, but also, Michael's way of telling me, like, just honestly how bad and how sad he really was, because going through something like this was life altering. I didn't want to live. It literally, I didn't want to get up in the morning because I had lost everything, so my kids didn't have their mom. My husband didn't have his wife. It was just, it was a really dark place. And I remember and I don't know, I'd like to think, it was God telling me just one day. I felt like just a calmness come over my body, and I'll never forget, because this was in the thick of it. This was probably 4 months in. And I just remember a calmness coming over my body. And again, I had never prayed so much before in my life through those 4 months. And it was like, you're going to get through this. You're going to get through. You're going to fight with everything you have. And I did. I think that day I was just you know what? No, Pfizer's not going to win. The government's not going to win. I am going to overcome this. And I made the decision. I set a goal for myself, and the goal was, I had always wanted to go to Banff. Banff was on my top list, and I was like, this year, I'm going to get well enough to where my family and I, that's where we want to go. I'm going to put one foot forward. I'm going to fight with everything I have, and I'm going to do it for my brother, who's no longer here. I'm going to do it for my kids, and I'm going to do it for my husband, and I'm going to get there. And I fought every day, and still fight every day for my life, because my brother doesn't have that anymore, and I do. And so I had to grieve the life that I once had, but be thankful for the life that I was given. And that was a turning point.
The turning point for you.
Yeah.
It was, and it was a day in that 4-month window that you had been praying. So it wasn't necessarily during that time of
every
prayer.
night. Every night I prayed.
Yeah. But it wasn't necessarily in that moment of prayer that you had this calmness, but all of a sudden you felt something that came over you that said, you're going to make it through this.
Right.
And it was that feeling that you had, that you were like, okay, there's that peace that I have that surpasses all understanding.
Right.
And I'm going to take that and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to take that next step. And you've done that. Obviously, we've talked about the steps that you took to get to the doctor, and you've done that before.
Right.
But this was different.
Right. It was different.
As you were talking, I was thinking about your brother and how your brother got to the place that he did. Mm-hmm. And you were sitting here saying, I can understand how he got there.
Right.
But that's not what I want for me and my family.
Right.
And so what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
How am I going to overcome this?
Right.
And here you are today. You are one of those people that goes into the fire, and you don't just come out with water for yourself. You come out with water for everybody else. And you are living proof every day that things that happen to you doesn't define you.
No.
You are walking and you're sharing your story, and I remember reading, and I'm going to pull it up, a post that you did, and it was about, I think, so you started April 2nd of 2021. You wrote this post November 29th of 2021, and it says, one day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through now, and it will become part of someone else's survival guide. And, that says so much about who you are and how what you've experienced and what you've gone through is not just for you to tell your story, but it's to tell the story so that people that are listening to this and are saying, man, I've had some of those same things. Like I'm dealing with my heart, or I've had a ton of neuropathy, or whatever the things are. I may have mast cell activation. Like you're giving people I'm sitting here across from you. You look amazing. You're strong. You're resilient, and they're hearing this and saying, okay, well, I can do it too.
Right.
And that's kind of what you said. Like in your post, you said, I am sharing this post not as a debate, but to help others that are going through the same thing as me. Today, I was told that a mom took her life after dealing with some of the same issues I have been dealing with for over 7 months now. To update everyone, I am now having to have an MRI done to rule out MS, which we didn't even talk about. They thought you had MS.
Yep.
And I have to see a specialist because I have trouble swallowing foods due to nerve damage. I was healthy before all of this happened, and I work hard every day not to let this ruin my life and for this not to become who I am. Right. And that is, and you went on to share more, but you work hard every day to not let this define you.
Right.
This is not who you are.
Right.
You are a child of God. You are a woman who is strong for not just yourself, but for so many.
Right. And I think, and that was the one thing, and I know we talked about that before, but going through something as traumatic as this, I think with families, it can, break some families and then build them stronger. But the one thing that my husband told me in the very beginning, and he is, a godsend. I love him more than life itself. And I would not be here if it weren't for him. But he said in the beginning, because we've been together since we were 18 and 19 years old. So, we've seen we've gone through everything together. Yeah. We've gone through the loss of my brother. We've gone through other losses. And we've been through, we pretty much have grown up together. And so I think for him seeing, this person before that was so full of life. And I did, after my brother passed, that was one thing I was like, I will live every day to the fullest for him. That's always been my motto. Because he's not here, I will literally find the good in every single person that you come in contact with. I've always had that mindset. After he passed, that was just a mindset that I had. And I think my husband, had seen just this person that was full of life just crumble. And I'll never forget, he said, when I was going through this again around that month 4, and this is when I was like, he said to me, he was like, I know you're upset. I know you're angry. And he was like, and this is not fair. Life is not fair. I know that. He goes, what has happened to our boys and our life is not fair. But he was like, do not let this define you. He said, you are a fighter. He goes, you always have been. He was like, you're feisty. He was like, that's why I fell in love with you. He was like, but I want you to fight. Don't let it define, don't let it take over you. And again, that's when, all of this, I was like, you're right. Like, this is not going to win. And it wasn't that next summer. We did end up taking the trip to Banff, and, that trip was it was magic in itself. Even to where my youngest, Ryan, we were on Lake Moraine and we were kayaking, and he said, Mom, he's like, this is like a fairy tale. And I said, you're right, buddy. It's a fairy tale. It's a dream come true. And you grieve the life that you had, but then you also look forward to the life that you're given. And you have to make the best of it.
Amen.
So,
yeah. And it's a gratitude. There's a verse that I love, and it's, I think it's in Thessalonians, and it says, be joyful always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstance, for this is the will of God. And so you're living proof of that, giving thanks in all circumstances, even things that are hard. Like you have to have that gratitude spirit. It changes the perspective. It changes the lens. You have courage. You have strength. You're resilient. You're living proof that you can overcome. Mm-hmm. And you can do it every day. No one's guaranteed tomorrow. And I think that's a mindset that I think, as hard as what you've gone through, you look at life from a different perspective. You look at it from a different lens. You are grateful for the birds that are chirping. Yeah. You're thankful for the sun that rises. You're thankful for the little things. You're thankful for the big things. You have so much gratitude, which changes your perspective and allows you to, even when those hard things happen, because they will, mm-hmm. you can say, you know what? That ain't going to define me. That ain't going to take me over. No. I am going to beat this. I'm going to beat it every day. And I'm going to take it one day at a time. Right. And thank God only gives us one day.
Right.
Can you imagine having to worry about everything that we have? He says, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough trouble of its own.
Right.
Right? So you're like, okay, so I'm just going to leave tomorrow in the future, and I'm not going to try to worry about that, because really, like, we're not supposed to.
Right.
And you can have that freedom, because ultimately, like, you've gone through so much that, having the ability to look at it and be into today, right? Like you're living in today. You're not trying to live out like the future.
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, it is hard.
Right. It is. But again, it's one day at a time.
Yeah.
And you can't really wait for the good days.
Yeah.
So you embrace every day like it's a good day.
So how is life now? I mean, obviously you look amazing. Oh, and thank you. What does life look like? So
it's definitely different. I definitely have restrictions, obviously, things that I can and can't do. But like we said, we live every day, to the best that I can. And we just went to Park City. We went snowboarding, which I've done a couple times since all of this. Not much though. I went on a girls' trip to Tahoe, and I was able to do, one run, which for me was, a feat in itself.
Yeah.
But this trip was different. I was able to ski for 3 days.
Wow.
And it was really special because the family that we went with, at the dinner table, every night we talked about, what were, pretty much my son, when we were little, we called them suns and clouds. Oh. So, what the sun meaning, what was your happy for the day? And then clouds, what was something that was, not so great that happened. And so we went around the table doing that with this other family. And so, mine for my happy for, it was realizing, that my body could actually snowboard for 3 days, because, 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been possible, right. Nor would I even think that it would have been possible. But to be able to do that with my family, it did. And I'm not going to say being on the mountain. I remember I had the guy friend that was with us was videoing me as I was snowboarding down the mountain. And I remember at that moment just getting emotional because it was like, I was able to do that. And I don't take any day for granted because I think so many people, you take your health, for granted. And then when it's taken away suddenly overnight, to do things like that, it gives you a whole new perspective. And it was beautiful. The snow was beautiful. The sun was beautiful. It was, being with people that I love, and being able to do it, with my kids, and just, it means everything.
Yeah.
And of course the downside, it's because you had to do your happy and then your cloud, is the eating.
Yes.
I still, because I do, I have about 8 safe foods that I can eat. I eat the same thing.
Okay, so tell me those 8. I have no idea what they are.
I know. So people are always like, what are those? Rice and chicken.
Okay.
Broccoli, sweet potatoes. Sweet Lorens, they're a brand of cookies that are gluten-free, dairy-free.
Okay.
I can eat those. And then, if we could get Cape Cod to actually sponsor me, that would be great. Cause I probably eat about 2 bags of chips, Cape Cod chips every day. Cause that's what my body can handle.
What chips are they?
They're Cape Cod.
And it's just a regular
potato chip, but it doesn't have much season. It doesn't have any flavor, but it's still
a chip.
It's a chip. And never ever before this happened, because I was a healthy eater, would I be eating bags of chips every day. Yeah. But here I am. I know, obviously I eat to live now, not live to eat.
I understand that.
But it's pretty restricted. And we are working with the mast cell stabilizer, the ketotifen. We're hoping that we can get some more foods in for me. But basically, with mast cell, you have to treat it almost like when you have a newborn baby. So, on my list to try foods next are applesauce and mozzarella, so that I can get some nutrients in there. But you have to eat them. You can only have a tablespoon. You do it 3 days in a row, and if you have no reaction, then you slowly start introducing more of that food. But you have to be super careful, because obviously it can cause a reaction.
Yeah.
So with that, and I do think I have been doing, which I highly recommend, especially for people that have been through something so traumatic, is EMDR, which is brain retraining. That's a huge piece because basically with the vaccine, it put my body in fight or flight.
Yep.
And it stayed there, for a long time. So getting my body out of that state, has really helped. And so EMDR definitely was,
integral in your
healing process.
Yeah.
And I do, there's things now that I do, daily that, before I would probably think were kind of hokey. As my husband always, he's like, oh, you're doing your voodoo stuff. And I was like, yes, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. But I do meditation daily, every morning meditation. I do red light every morning. I've done things like cryo, EMDR, because I do think, going through something traumatic, but then also helping with the mast cell, because it affected the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is, obviously intertwined. It's everything. So I do a lot of vagus nerve exercises as well. And I think, there are a lot of people that probably are going through similar things, whether it be from the vaccine or COVID, but they don't realize hey, my body's, it's different. Why is it different? Why is my body? But it does. There are a lot of things that people can do out there to calm the nervous system, which honestly in this world and today, everything's so busy. Yeah. It's not a bad thing for everybody to do.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. I think the phone, we're so overstimulated that there's no question of why we're in fight or flight mode all the time.
Right.
And that's not a healthy place to live.
Right.
Our bodies are not designed to do that. Again, going back to that worry, do not worry.
Right.
But we're surrounded by things that we should worry about because there's just, it's a dark world we live in.
Right.
So you said those 8 foods. I'm trying to think of like, okay, I like sweet potatoes, but man, that would be like eating the same thing over and over and over again.
I do, right.
But you're into with chicken. Could you put like salt, pepper?
I can only, no. So I have an allergy to, like, I react to pepper.
Okay.
I react to most all spices, citrus, lemon, lime, all citrus I react to. So I basically, it's chicken breast with just olive oil and salt, which makes vacationing.
Yeah. What do you do when you go out to eat?
So I can't usually, it's funny because, I will say we've gone out of the country, you know, probably about 10 times since all this has gone on. I do much better out of the country.
Yeah, that makes
and
sense.
It's probably, again, how they prepare their food,
Yeah.
what they put in the food. But it is harder to eat out at restaurants here. So mainly because when I go to a restaurant and I want a chicken breast,
Yeah.
most all of the restaurants pre-marinate
Yes.
their chicken breast, and I can't do that. So it is always a challenge when we go on vacation. You know, we just went to Scottsdale for a music festival, you know, a week ago, and thankfully hotels have been great about preparing my food.
Okay.
So we usually hotels when we're staying, you know, I'll meet with the chef and they've all been amazing. They're like, we can do just a plain chicken breast with you with olive oil and sea salt. And that's, you know, that's what we do. Now, I do probably look like a crazy person if anybody opens my suitcase when we're traveling, because we have a suitcase of Cape Cod chips. I take cookies with me. And then I also, so with mast cell too, there's different waters that can cause reactions. So like, I can't do like tap water.
Yeah.
I carry, either some Fiji or Evian water, that travels in our suitcase now. Because when I go out of the country, a lot of times I can't find those things. So we've learned to, you know, and my boys even, they're like, Mom, don't forget about your water, you know, I mean, so,
sweet.
you know, they know now. But it has been, but again, I will not let it take my life. I will, I love to travel. I find so much enjoyment.
I love traveling too.
Yes. And so now this summer we're going to Europe this summer. And so, which I will say some of the moms that I've now gotten mast cell from the vaccine as well, they said Europe, they've done fine in. So, but I do, I need to start. That's why, like, mozzarella, that needs to be on top of my list. So, because I would love to be able to go to Italy and actually have pizza. Obviously not with tomato sauce, but just an olive oil base with mozzarella. Like, those are some of my goals.
Yeah.
You know, those. I do want to do some of those things, and I've got to start introducing more foods.
What about toothpaste? I'm just thinking about
So toothpaste. So a year ago, I was reacting to my toothpaste. So, I had to use, and even when I go to the dentist now, like, he knows, and thankfully he's a friend of mine and he knows what I've been through. So, they have to use, it's like almost like a gritty, it's not toothpaste. It's like almost like a stone, to brush my teeth. And I had to buy, it wasn't even, I had to buy that stuff to actually brush my teeth because I was reacting to my toothpaste because of the mint. So I have to be very careful, and even, you know, detergents, I have to be super careful about, just stuff that you never think about.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that now you can't even go to get your hair done at the hair salon.
I can't. So that has been, and again, it's, my girlfriends, they all joke. So their nickname for me, because I can get feisty, when I want to. So they're like, it's Memphis Jennie. And so they know, like, if she's come out, it's a problem.
It's an adventure.
Yeah. She doesn't come out very often, but when she does, but that is one thing I was like, I was like, Memphis Jennie is here. I'm going to still get my hair done. I'm not going to let this take over. So thankfully, love my hairstylist. She is an angel too. She actually comes to my house to do my hair now, because I can't even go. I've actually had 2 reactions in the salon because of the smells.
So walk us through what does that reaction look like just going into the hairstyle?
First is I can feel my heart rate. My heart rate shoots up immediately, and then I have trouble breathing, and then I start coughing. It probably is similar. I don't have asthma, so I don't really know. It's probably similar to that kind of attack. But I do, my breathing becomes restricted, and it's the same kind of response. Like, I've obviously been allergic to bees and wasps. I know how that feels.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same. I mean, it's just like, it would be, just an allergic reaction. That's basically what my body is like. Nope. This is not a safe environment. It's hard because I think too, a lot of businesses and stuff have candles and have scents and all of those things. And I just can't, I'll walk in a store and I'm like, nope. And I have to walk right back out because I know I can't stay in there. So.
Wow. Like, yeah, definitely life altering. I mean, in every sense of the word.
Right.
Like, there's not one thing that hasn't been touched.
No. And I think my girlfriends, a lot of times they'll say, like, they're just like, I don't see how you do it. Like, they're like, I couldn't live like that. But it's like, you're not given another choice.
Yeah.
Like,
you do what you do because you have to
survive.
Yeah.
Right. Again, like, that song, like, sticks with me. It's, I'm unstoppable. And like, I'm going to continue to be a wife. I'm going to continue to be a mom. I'm going to continue, be baseball mom and,
be a friend. I'm going to be a daughter. I'm going to, and I'm going to be an advocate for people that are out there.
Right.
Because, I mean, I know that was one of the reasons you wanted to be, when I asked you, it was like, you wanted to share your story.
I do.
You have a voice and you want people to, know what you've gone through so that if this could help somebody.
Right.
Then you feel like that's what your mission is.
Right.
You've talked to several people that have, kind of hidden it, right? Like they almost feel like ashamed that they have these reactions and they don't know, like, they don't want to voice it. So they just stay in the dark.
Right.
So if someone's listening and they're having these, situations like, that arose for you.
Right.
What would you say to that person?
I think at first, because probably most doctors are going to have, I will say, now doctors are finally admitting all of the, we're seeing a rise in cancer. Yeah. We're seeing a rise,
diseases,
in diseases, autoimmune disorders, RA, lupus, like all of these things. We're seeing people like just, develop all of these autoimmune issues. But it's one that they're not crazy, because I think if I had listened to many doctors in the beginning, they were like, this is anxiety. You need depression medication. You need anxiety. You're not crazy. Like, no. I mean, your body, how it's supposed to feel. And know that there are many great doctors out there that are trying to help, that are studying what this is doing to the body. But it is and not to give up, because I was so close, such in a dark space, but I mean, to be where I am today, I will be forever grateful and thankful. And it does, I mean, there are definitely other women that I have met along the way that are fighters too. They may not be as vocal as I am about it, because we did nothing wrong. We were listening to we were doing what we told with the information that we had at the time. But there's definitely, and there's support groups too. Like some of the moms that I've met that are having reactions that have gone through the same thing. I mean, we bounce doctors off each other. We're like, have you seen this one? Have you seen that one?
Is this like a Facebook group or like a?
There's a face group, especially for mast cell. There's one for mast cell and then for vaccine injured as well. Although those were taken down early on, those were pretty much banned in the beginning of all of this. But there is help out there, and, suddenly develop food reactions all of a sudden, all the time. It's not normal.
No.
It's not an allergy.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people want to be like, I suddenly developed these food allergies.
Right.
It's not a food allergy. I mean, I've had allergy testing with all of this. I'm like, mast cell isn't a food allergy. Right. So it's basically when your mast cells are hyperactive, and basically, it sees things as a threat.
Yeah.
I definitely, and I hope, I think too, we've had some serious conversations with our boys about vaccines. and not just going along with what you're told. And I do think, it's my pediatrician, who I do adore and love him, but we think very differently on vaccines. He knows what has happened to me. He knows my opinion. His daughter who's also going to medical school right now, she feels similar to how I feel. And I still go to him. Do we have the same views on vaccines? No. So it is, but like teaching our children
to be critical thinkers.
Right. And it's just because a doctor tells you to do it, they're not always right.
I know.
It is something,
It's that discernment. I think kind of like we talked about in the very beginning, it's that discernment that you had said, like you went up to the place to get the first vaccine and you drove away.
Right.
And then, came back, but it's listening to that inner voice.
Right.
And when you're prompted and, saying, okay, is this what I'm supposed to do or am I not? And I believe that God does give us the answer,
Right.
And sometimes there's so many times that God's given me an answer and I've been like, nope,
yeah,
I'm going this route.
Way. Right.
I'm going this way, Lord. And He's like, okay, well, we'll bring you back.
It.
Yeah, try it.
Try it. See how it goes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so, it's definitely, we are, we're not perfect. Right. But, I think with our kids, I think the critical thinking component. I believe that we were raised not to be critical thinkers. Like our generation was not raised to be critical thinkers. Right. We were raised to do what we were told.
Right.
100%.
100%.
And I believe we have made that shift with our kids.
Right.
To be critical thinkers.
Yes.
To have a voice.
Right.
To stand up for what's right.
Right.
Right. And I'm thankful because God's not surprised by any of the generations, right? Like He's not surprised that we were the way we were, and we, let's put it in perspective. I can't remember the exact number, but globally, like, was it 80 or 90% of people got vaccines?
Right. Yeah.
It was like almost 90%, I think.
Right. And and the downside of that now too is with this vaccine, we don't know the aftermath of it. We don't know the long-term effects.
Right.
And people are just now even seeing side effects now,
right,
like 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
So it just, and I think that's true with any vaccine, and again, obviously I'm not an anti-vaxxer. My kids had always gotten vaccines. Right. Obviously I wouldn't have gotten this one if I was anti-vaccine. But it makes you question now. And and again, God playing mysterious way. Yeah. Maybe this happened too for a reason for, getting other things that amen. I would have probably maybe given my kids that I will not do now.
Yeah, right.
Because
such a good way to look at it. Oh, sorry. That's such a good way to look at it.
Right.
Jenny, is that, again, it's that perspective of looking at, okay, maybe I was given this situation so that I didn't give my kids something in the future that I would have naturally done because I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Right. And I totally get that, because with Finley was my wake up call. Right. She was born blind, and so we were told to get a vaccine, in the hospital, and then right after that, and I was cruel and unusual punishment because I didn't want to give her the vaccine, but it was because of her that I didn't give my youngest any vaccines, right. And I look at her situation and I'm like, man, I'm so thankful. Kind of like you said, if I hadn't had Finley, I may have given her vaccines and I may have gotten the vaccine, but I didn't because of that situation. And it's perspective. Again, a big part of why you are where you are today is because of your perspective. You continue to look at it from a positive perspective and a gratitude. And that is definitely, something that I hope that people that are listening will hear in your voice, is that every time you've come up with a challenge, and you don't know what the future holds, every time you've come up with a challenging situation, you have looked at it like, okay, I'm had this on. Right. This doesn't define me. This doesn't determine, my life and how I'm going to live my life. I'm going to continue to live.
Right. Yep.
And you're such a great example to your boys. How inspired are they by you?
Yeah. Well, I'm mom, so I'm
I
probably
know, but
I did get from the girlfriend. We had a surprise party for her this past weekend, and I did get "You're the GOAT." So I'll take that. I mean, it may not be coming from my son, but at least it's coming from somebody that
he's had a huge influence on, and he obviously has said that about you.
But yeah, so but again, it is something. My kids, I'm glad that we're able to have these conversations with them going forward, because their world is completely different than how we were raised.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, no, it's a gift to be here.
So obviously, Jennie, you're an inspiration to me and to so many, and obviously your boys.
Thank you.
Where do you see yourself? I know that you mentioned Banff was like your goal when you were going through that hard time. For that 4-month window, you were like, I'm going to Banff. I'm going to Banff. What's your next goal? And I know that you're no longer working as a teacher.
Right.
What are you doing now?
So, as of right now, as my husband said, you went from, teaching, not making a ton of money, and now you just work for free, as he calls those, the fake jobs that I have.
Yeah.
But I'm the head team mom for Wakeland baseball.
Okay.
So that pretty much
takes up a lot of time.
Takes up most of my time.
Yes.
Which, again, teaching I wouldn't have been able to do. So I am very thankful that I get to be a part of that. And then I'm also PTA at Griffin at, my son's middle school. So I'm heavily involved in their lives, as much as they allow me to be. Uh-huh. So, and then I think I brought up the traveling. I mean, I love to travel. And over the next 5 years, there's definitely places that I want to go. And I did, I'm big into vision boards. I love vision boards. And so, vision boards, some of those, it's this for someone that obviously hasn't gone through this, it's trying new foods. That's on my vision board. Making sure I'm doing meditation daily, and then working out again. I can't do any HIIT workouts or anything that gets my heart rate up. Uh-huh. So I have slowly started incorporating going to do yoga classes. Uh-huh. Which before, if you had asked me if that was a workout, I would have said absolutely not. That was my before self. But now, it's just, it's something now, it's calming.
Yeah.
I find, and to the point where my husband actually goes with me. So, we go about two or three times. We do the night class, and even for him, he's like, I sleep so much better. So, that's something that we have been doing together, but it is, finding things, that I can do again that bring me some type of normalcy. Yeah. Whether again, it's working out, doing yoga, doing meditation, traveling. We've always loved to travel. Yeah. So to continue to do that and to continue to do it with my boys, we have, places that we want to go. Yeah. Continuing to do those things and continue to do the things that do bring me joy, because that's what I'll never have my life back before. That's just something I've come to terms with, and I know that. Do I miss that old life? Absolutely. But it does give you a whole new outlook and perspective on your life after you've gone through something like that. And it does, you even brought, hearing birds chirp, the littlest things that I find so much joy in. So I want to continue, to do those things daily.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the studio and sharing your story. It's truly an inspiring story, and I know that there's so many people. Like we mentioned, there's 90% of the world took the vaccine, right? And there are a lot of people that are quietly suffering. Right? And so you sharing your story and people getting to hear your story and it resonating, whether it's because they have it themselves or they know someone they know and care about that is experiencing those things, for them to hear your story is just, again, proof of you coming out of this fire with buckets of water for so many others. So thank you again for joining me, and I cannot wait for everyone to hear your story.
Well, thank you. It was my pleasure being here.